Further discussion on Senate File 970 as amended. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the A50 amendment, and I'd appreciate a roll call.
Let's get the amendment reported first. Senator Pappas offers the A50 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Pappas moves to amend Senate File number 970 as follows. Page 71 after line 26. Insert. This is the A50 amendment.
A roll call has been requested. A roll call will be granted to the amendment. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. What this bill does is it prospectively eliminates the time limit for reporting felony sex crimes committed against any victim in Minnesota. You know, Mr. President, women are tired of waiting. They're tired of being told, wait until next year, wait to their turn, wait for more evidence, wait for the wheels of justice to turn, and then, oops, now it's too late because there's a statute of limitations. Currently, a sexual predator can evade criminal consequences in Minnesota for no other reason than that the time limits established by the penal code have expired. In the U.S., about 1 in 6 women and 1 in 33 men will have been a victim of an attempted or completed rape in their lifetime. People aged 12 to 34 are at the highest risk of sexual assault and rape. 80% of sexual assault and rape victims are under age 30, and 44% are under age 18. Nationally, statutes of limitations for prosecuting rape and serious sex offenses range from 3 years to no limit at all. For example, Kentucky, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming, Illinois, and California have no statute of limitations for felony sex crimes. Plus, legislation passed by Congress in 2006 eliminated the statute of limitations for rape cases under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. In Minnesota, existing law gives victims, both children and adults, 9 years to file a report. 9 years for children to realize they've been sexually assaulted and come forward with great bravery to file a report. Eliminating the statute of limitations will be particularly useful in holding repeat offenders accountable. The ratio of victims to perpetrators is not 1-to-1. Perpetrators may have dozens of victims. Most victims choose not to report, but when someone reports their perpetrator, oftentimes other victims who are assaulted by the same person choose to come forward. A person being raped, sexually abused, or sexually assaulted is being forced against their will. The trauma that victims experience in the aftermath often presents itself as a deep sense of powerlessness. Choice has become an essential part of healing for survivors. The statute of limitations takes away an important choice for survivors, the choice to report what happened to them. While the victim does not get to decide the outcome of their case, they do deserve a choice to make a report. This legislation is supported by the Minnesota County Attorneys Association and the Minnesota Coalition Against Sexual Assault. I respectfully request your support.
Discussion on the A50 amendment. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today in support of this amendment.
Mr. President.
Senator Benson, for what reason do you rise?
I rise to a point of order.
Please state your point of order.
35.2. This relates to a substantially different subject. Senator Limmer was very clear about policy. As significant and, believe me, important as this is, it is policy, and Senator Limmer does not have policy in this bill. That makes this not germane to the budget bill.
Senator Benson raises a point of order under Rule 35.2 that the amendment is not germane. Advice, Senator Pappas.
Mr. Chairman, you didn't give me a chance to make my argument.
I did. That's why I asked.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misheard you. I thought you already ruled. I apologize.
I did not rule.
Mr. Chairman, it's a false argument to say that because Senator Limber insists that this is a funding bill and not a policy bill, that therefore it's not germane. There's nothing in the germaneness rule that says that. It has to be a substantially different subject or a substantially different purpose. There is policy in this bill, and I mentioned it earlier on. There is the recommendations from the Criminal Sexual Conduct Statutory Reform Working Group. I am talking about a criminal sexual conduct policy. We adopted policies from that working group. We adopted specifically language to fix a Supreme Court ruling called State versus Khalil, a case involving the definition of mentally incapacitated, whether a woman could be charged sexual assault if she was voluntarily intoxicated as opposed to involuntary intoxicated. This is a criminal statute amendment applying to a criminal justice bill that includes crim sex language in the bill. It is certainly germane.
Advice, Mr. President?
Further advice?
Advice, Mr. President?
Senator Bingham.
Thank you. Mr. President, I specifically remember a very tense moment for almost 2 days about the fact that Senator Latz offered a 33-page amendment, and it was policy when we were marking this up. That page of the criminal sexual conduct fix related to the voluntary intoxication provision and fix was adopted in committee. There is policy in this bill, and it's going to be it connects. It's going to be similar to that discussion when you're dealing with survivors and what their ability to bring suit from being a victim of sexual assault. So I hope that you find that this is not that this is germane.
Further advice, Senator Benson, then Senator Port. Senator Benson.
Mr. President, and in reviewing the sections that are in the title of the bill, this is also not included, and our sections of law are generally grouped together because they are similar subjects, and so the fact that this section of law is not in this bill does give us some indication that it is a different subject. As important as it might be, it is a different subject.
Further advice, Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. President. As Senator Pappas said, criminal sexual conduct is in this bill, which is what this relates to. And frankly, the fact that we are having a conversation that this is not the moment to talk about this, that we should wait for another time, is exactly why we need to add this into law. Victims are told over and over and over that reporting now, reporting this way, reporting what happened to you is not, you're not going to find justice. It's why they don't report in the first place. And us telling them today, as they are listening to us, that this isn't the time for us to take this up, absolutely reinforces the need for this bill.
Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just flipped open the bill that is at hand, and I went to page 63 and section 18, criminal sexual conduct in the 5th degree. There's really no argument that this amendment is not germane to this bill. If people don't want this in the bill, then we should take it to a vote. But there is no legitimate argument here that this is not germane.
Further advice? I'm going to rule that the point of order is not well taken and the amendment is germane. Further discussion on the A50 amendment. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I was saying before, there are a lot of reasons that victims don't report. Often, when they're children, they don't understand what happened to them. They don't understand that there is justice for them. Women are told consistently that they are to blame for their assaults. And removing the statute of limitations is an incredibly important path for us to get to justice for these cases. The criminal justice system has not worked well for victims of rape and assault, and this is one step that we can take today to ensure that victims have a path to justice. I encourage a green vote.
Further discussion on the A50 amendment. Senator Benson.
Mr. President,
Senator Benson.
I'm sorry. You did call my name. Could Senator Pappas answer a question for me?
Senator Pappas will yield. Senator Benson.
Mr. President, on page 2, line 23, it appears that this is retroactive. I know it's important. I'm going to not turn and face Senator Pappas. I know it's important that even past victims get justice, but I do have a concern about retroactive dates. And so if Senator Pappas could explain how retroactivity works in our court system, and why does this happen in other places where we add new law and it's retroactive? If she could help me understand that, I would appreciate it.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not an expert on how our court system works. We'd need to have certainly Senator Latz here to do that. But if we just look at the language, this section is effective August 1st, 2021. So it's prospective. The additional language, I believe, would apply to crimes that were being prosecuted previously that are already under current law. So those statutes of limitations would then apply based on what the current law is.
Senator Benson.
Mr. President, page 2, line 24 says, to crimes committed before that date if the limitation period for the crime did not expire before August 1st, 2021. And so we're kind of doing this on the fly, and this is really important, but I also need to understand what that language means. And I'm not being on judiciary. I don't respond, I don't process in this way. To crimes committed before that date if the limitation period for the crime did not expire. So does this mean our current statute is 9 years after the age of 18, so if somebody's between 18 and then the 9 years. So if Senator Pappas could explain that, it would be helpful to understand how this applies. And frankly, Mr. President, at this point, if any other lawyer wants to stand up and explain this language to me, I would just appreciate it. Mr. President, I think this language is going to move forward. I just don't want there to be mistakes in the language.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senator Benson. If the language needs to be reviewed, that certainly can be done in conference committee with further negotiations, but I feel there's no reason to delay taking a vote on this bill when I've already explained to you it applied to crimes that are already being under prosecution under current law.
Further discussion on the A50. Senator Bingham.
Mr. President, there's not a roll call already requested. I would request
Roll
one.
call has already been requested. Senator Franzen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to chime in real briefly that when you have retroactivity on a law, you still have to prove your case in court. This is not just opening the floodgates. And if someone can remind me what we did previously in this body when we dealt with victims of church sexual abuse, I want to say, if I remember correctly, we did the same thing. So people would have their day in court. You still have to prove it. You still have to prove your case. So this is giving people a day in court. So, Mr. President and Senator Benson, I hope that clarifies that this is not necessarily just opening the floodgates. You still have to prove your case in court. Thank you.
Mr.
Further
President,
discussion on the A50, Senator Benson.
I'm not concerned about opening the floodgates. I just want to know who is going to be eligible now. That's all I want. It's effective August 1st, so any crime committed in the 9 years prior to August 1st could be captured in this only if they haven't been convicted. Is that correct? Senator Pappas?
Are you asking Senator Pappas to yield?
Yes.
Senator Pappas, will you yield? She will not yield.
Okay.
I have
Mr.
other-
President, did Senator Pappas call the question?
Senator Pappas, do you have something to say? I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
thought I
Mr.
just-
President, could I offer the A76 amendment, please?
Is this an amendment to the amendment, Senator Benson?
It's an amendment to the amendment.
Senator Benson offers the A76 amendment to the amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment to the amendment.
Senator Benson moves to amend the Pappas Amendment to Senate File Number 970 as follows. Page 2, line 24, delete everything after the first date and insert a period. This is the A76 amendment.
All right, members, again, the amendment should be available on your computer. Otherwise, get a page's attention, and we will make sure that we get it handed out while, while the amendment's being distributed. To the amendment, Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I understand the purpose and intent of the rest of the bill. The language that I would be removing here is something that I am not transparently understanding. And so I would appreciate it if this language could be adopted and then the underlying amendment could be supported.
Further discussion on the A76 amendment to the amendment, Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any problem with the amendment to the amendment.
All right, any further discussion on the A76 amendment to the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. The motion prevails and the amendment to the amendment is adopted. Members, we're back on the A50 amendment as we just amended. Senator Benson.
Mr. President, the A50 as amended, I think is important policy, and I would encourage members of our caucus to support it as amended. And I would request that Senator Pappas consider removing the roll call that she requested.
Is there any further discussion on the A50 amendment? Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Senator Benson. I really appreciate your support for this. Thank you so much. And I'll withdraw my roll call request.
Senator Pappas withdraws the roll call. Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Pappas yield?
Senator Pappas will yield. Senator Limmer.
Senator Pappas, when I began my introduction of this bill, I prefaced it with the fact that this is a budget bill. And I was wondering if you have a fiscal note on this provision.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. President, I guess I should have asked Senator Limmer if he supported the amendment before I withdrew my roll call request. So I might have to.
We can always put it back on.
I might have to put it back on. Senator Limmer, I think I had mentioned several times that you do have policy in this bill, and as long as you're asking me this question, I would like to just say that I apologize, but I feel like you've created a catch-22 for us, is that you don't want policy, but yet you didn't hear policy bills and send them out on their own or create an omnibus policy article. And last year, we didn't hear a lot of policy because of COVID. The committee was shut down. So I would like to ask you to please be more flexible about this whole policy budget argument this year because of these circumstances. And Senator Limmer, are you comfortable then with supporting the A50 amendment? Will Senator Limmer yield? I think he asked me to yield. Can I ask him to yield back?
He did ask you, and you didn't answer his question, but I'll let you two work that out. Senator Limmer will yield. Senator Pappas.
Senator Limmer, are you willing to support the A50 amendment?
Senator Limmer.
Mr. President, thank you, Senator Pappas. Before I answer the question, I already knew the answer to the cost of this bill. I was just testing whether you knew. And there is a cost to the court. It's an unfunded mandate. And it appears in the first biennium, $10,000. Second and 24, then it starts rising 25. And by the time we get to 2025, looks like the biennial total will be $77,000. And there is a slight uptick to the cost of the general fund. I just wanted to be accurate so everyone knows what they're doing.
Mr. President.
Senator Pappas, he didn't answer your question.
Yeah, sounds like a rounding error. And no, I didn't answer your question. I appreciate that. But it does sound like a rounding error, a rounding number to me. And Senator Limmer, before I ask for a roll call again, I just would appreciate your support for the A50 amendment.
Senator Limmer.
Mr. President, I will support the amendment.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Limmer, and thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Benson.
Sounds like we got some kumbaya. Okay, to the A50 amendment, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. The amendment is adopted.